For now, we are at Portimao, and what a venue. First time the series has visited Portugal and Portimao, indeed. The first time ever a 24-hour race has been run here at the Autodromo Internacional do Algarve. And what an event this is likely to be. We've got a 25-car field. A 25-car field here at Portimao. This is round 6. This is the final point-scoring round of the 2017 season that saw us start in Dubai. We then visited Italy for the first time of 2 for round 2. The Red Bull Ring in Austria saw round 3. Paul Ricard, the 24 Hours of Paul Ricard, was a fantastic venue to hold. And then Imola, the previous round to this, seems like only yesterday. And we have got now round 6 this weekend. The 24 Hours of Portimao. Final point scoring. As I say, this means that we are going to crown our 2017 24-hour series champion. And team's champion indeed. Down to Nick Damon, who I believe is with us on the pit lane, ready to get the important part started. Nick, we're about to go ahead with qualifying for our TCR and SP3 GT4 classes. What's the atmosphere?
To get running and rolling with the GT3 SP4 classes, and the atmosphere is hot. It is very, very warm here at this junction. It's about 33, 34 degrees in the sun, probably about 45 or more on the tarmac. It's been blistering. It's a lovely blue sky, wispy clouds, very lovely. But we, of course, have a 45-minute session coming up for the, the more touring car TCR classes. And then after a very short break, we have another 45 minutes with the big bangers, the GT3 machines out, where we'll see the very fastest times. Times that actually are too fast for the organisers. They've had to change the regulations to accommodate how quick these cars are. But we have a couple of minutes more quiet before the cars will rumble down the straight for 45 minutes of touring car qualifying.
Paul Tuswell, we just spoke earlier regarding just what sort of times we're going to see. TCR, for instance, just not being able to break that 2-minute mark just by a tenth of a second, a tenth or two of a second. The SP3 class surprisingly going quicker than our TCR runners. This is in the form of the this is in the form of the Ginetta, the Optimum Motorsport Ginetta 155.7, the fastest TCR car, the 335 number B2F competition on Peugeot 308, 2 minutes, .194.
The way that the balance of performance works is that the TCR cars are unrestricted by minimum reference lap times. The TCR class cars can go as fast as they can, in other words, as fast as their engines and tyres and aerodynamics allows them to go. The SP3 cars, however, are limited by a minimum reference lap time. Now, they can go in several different classes depending what their choice is. There are only 2 SP3 class cars, but they've got a choice of 4. Basically, they can go at 155, 156, 157 or 158. Depending which one of those classes they run at, they can get a different minimum weight, and they're allowed a different amount of fuel at each pit stop. But those constraints, I mean, we just heard it from Ben, apply to the Ginetta, the Optimum Motorsport Ginetta, and also to the other SP3 GT4 class car, the Honda Civic of the Park Algarve racing team. And they will, as I say, have to choose which of the minimum reference lap times they want to go in. Now, I certainly don't expect to see anything faster than a 1 minute 55 from the Ginetta, unless, as Nick was just referring, the organisers decide that they're going to reduce the minimum reference time still further. But currently, the minimum lap time for an SP3 car is 1 minute 55 seconds.
We've got cars rolling out. Let's pop down to the pit lane and see if Nick Damon can give us some insight as to who is actually going to be going out first. Nick?
Well, trundling down the pit lane was the 118 car, the Ricky Coomber machine. It's actually trundled all the way to get some fuel, because, of course, in typical Creventic style, right down there, and Seb will show you, those cones at the end of the pit lane, actually, a lot of cars are just turning right, and what they're doing there is picking up some fuel at one of the 6 pit stops. We also have the 231 car just coming out onto the apron. That's the Sherpen, O'Brien, Wilkinson, Ginetta. And I can see one of the Seats, a black one, I should say lights, not. It's one of the Peugeots, a black one, trolling down the pit lane as we wait for the lights to start the session.
Well, it's got a black bottom, but it's got a blue and white frontage, so it does look very different from whether you're looking at it from the front or the rear. Green flag is flying, green lights at the end of pit lane, and the Peugeot is the first car to head out onto circuit. Now, that is the Peugeot that was problem-free in practice. The other, its teammate, potentially had a gearbox change, and hearing on Twitter, thanks to Right's Turn Lover, that perhaps it even had an engine change. So major problems for at least one of the Peugeot, 1.6 engine in that, balanced against the 2-litre TCR cars. And I've found out the history, or the kind of history, of the Park Algar Racing Team Honda Civic Type R. That car is actually a car that's used at this circuit as a school car, teaching front-wheel drive racing. So there are two of them. In the back of the garage is the one that is going to be presumably used as spares. And the car, the blue car that we're going to see on track is going to change progressively from completely blue to more and more white as they change more bits and put it on. But that's the original. That's where the car originates from. Completely standard engine configuration and just stripped out inside, roll cage put in, as you'd expect from any school car. And that is the car that Chris Hoy, the Olympian, is part of the team. I think there's 5 drivers in that car. And it kind of sits in its own category. It's an SP3. It's not obviously a TCR car. It's not built to TCR spec. But it's not a GT3 4 car as well. So it's got its own SP3 category and a few problems as well. It was the slowest of our 25 runners in the free practice session.
What we probably saw with the Peugeot 308 gearbox change, it's probably as quick to just take the engine and gearbox out as one unit and pop an engine and gearbox out, because the fiddly bit is actually unbolting the gearbox and parting the gearbox from the engine. It's a transverse engine, so it lies at 90 degrees to the car, and a bit like a mini kind of thing. We all know what I mean by it when I say transverse. So it's probably as quick a job to do that. And once the engine and gearbox is out, they can now take off the damaged or the broken gearbox and sort it out before they then mate it back up with what will effectively be their spare engine.
4 cars out on the circuit thus far. The first one going through being the 908 team Alltran Peugeot 308. That car, the untroubled one, it was very quick in the free practice session that we had earlier on today. Coming through next after it should be the number 105, the Zest entered Seat Leon. And the drivers in the appropriate cars. The 908 car currently in the hands of Gonzalo Martin de Andres, and then behind him, in fact going more quickly than him, in the 105 the Zest car is Jesus Diaz Villarreal in 105, and he does the fastest lap thus far, 2 minutes 24, still plenty to come. That was just his out lap. And then the 108 car is the next one out. That's the CAD Speed Audi RS, which is currently being driven by Eric Holstein. And then the other one coming out at the moment is 231. That's Dan O'Brien at the wheel of the Optimum Motorsport Ginetta. Chris Hoy is out in the 188. The other SP3 car, the Park Algar Racing Team Honda Civic. So Chris having the first go behind the wheel of the Honda Civic. Meanwhile, on the screen there you can see the Ginetta. That's Dan O'Brien in the number 231 for Optimum Motorsport. Just turning through turn 14 before coming down into the... it's only one corner, that final corner. It's a very long, sweeping, downhill right-hander, but all of it is described as turn 15.
And arguably the most important corner on the whole circuit. It's a very fast corner, but also because of the undulations and the way that the camber falls on the corner, very easy to make a mistake and scrub off all of that speed onto the all-important start-finish straight.
Yeah, and because that is such a long straight, every little bit of horsepower and miles per hour you can get to go down it gives you a shorter, quicker lap time. And it is, of course, the last, it's not just one lap, because it messes up 2 laps if you mess it up, because the finish line, the timing line, is not very far after the last corner. So you have the last corner, then the finish line, the timing line, and then you have the majority of the start-finish straight.
First of the times have come in then at 2 minutes 0.551 for Andreas in the Peugeot. And that is as fast as we saw them in free practice. So perhaps we will see a TCR car below the 2-minute barrier. We expect the fastest car of the session to be the Ginetta GT4, Ginetta G55 GT4 car. That should have a better performance, or certainly in practice that's what we saw. But then in terms of the pecking order for the TCR cars, that's still not known. Still one car not out on circuit. That is the Peugeot that we speculate had a gearbox change. All other cars now on track.
Let's have a word with Nick, who I'm sure is already monitoring that progress on the three-way Peugeot. Nick Damon.
Indeed, the 308 is in front of me, and hopefully it'll be on your screen very soon as the 105 see it comes to a halt behind me. The car smells quite oily. There's 8 mechanics underneath it. They're still mopping up after what obviously is the engine and gearbox change. Still a little bit of final work to do. If you look down here, we still have the under tray, the front splitter to go on, and this isn't quite so good because they've actually got a man with a torch still. So almost as though they don't quite know what the problems are. The man with the torch is looking for perhaps a mystery leak or a mystery problem.
Or is he just looking and checking?
And they have obviously that's not good because you're trying to find that first before you can actually fix anything. All the bits seem in the car, obviously perhaps not working as they should.
Have they had a fire up, Nick? Have they fired the engine yet, do you know?
I haven't heard that, but it may be they did get one and then there's a problem. Sahir Ayari's brother runs this team, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
I'm going to have a wander in, and I'll have to probably wander him out probably because the comms is a little bit dire. But anyway, I'll speak to you in a couple of seconds.
Also, Nick, could you confirm, we've had information that they have had a full engine change, which means the engine with the gearbox attached. Could you just confirm that's exactly the tactic that the team employed with that issue? Thanks, Nick. Nick Damon down there in our pits. Paul?
Dan O'Brien, as Ben Constantinos was confidently predicting, has gone quickest of all, and he did at 1 minute 55.909 in the Optimum Ginetta. Whether that is the optimum remains to be seen. I suspect there's more time in that car yet in the 45 minutes of this session. So 231 goes comfortably quickest. Dan O'Brien, with only 2 co-drivers listed in the Optimum Motorsport car, Alexander Scherp and Ollie Wilkinson, the other 2 co-drivers. So they're going to get their money's worth through the 24 hours. You're allowed to have up to 5 drivers in a team. You need only have 2 according to the regulations, but there's nobody who's gone for 2 drivers in this year's entry. Has been done in Barcelona before, and that's getting pretty hot. A 2-driver team a couple of years ago.
The current configuration, Barcelona.
The current configuration of Barcelona. 2 years ago, there was a 2-driver team. This, though, a 3-driver team then for the Ginetta. That's fastest of all. More news from the pits and Nick Damon.
Yeah, still with the 308. I'm afraid they are, as I had correctly Nick Damon of the Yard down here in CSI Portimao. They had indeed got a bit of a leak, and he just may have missed out a second ago. They tried firing it again for a few seconds, and the net result was the whole nose section came off, pulled it off on the lights. They're now having to go and strip it back down again. I did speak to Mr. Ayari, and he said, we thought 10 minutes. But it looks like they've discovered this leak. They think it might be part of the gearbox pump. And they're going to have to unhook loads of bits and rehook bits up again to eliminate the leak. So a simple gearbox change, I'm sure they've done thousands of times before, at least hundreds, has not gone to plan, and it's going to cost them extra time, and they have, 35 minutes to do that, or at least 25 minutes, and then get out and do some runs.
That's the crucial aspect of it, isn't it, Nick? Actually getting the laps in as well, because 3 laps are supposed to be completed. Although it goes back to what Ben was saying, it's only qualifying, and it's only going to be a position on the towards the rear end of a grid anyway. So
that means they're going to, if they don't get out, Paul, though, it means starting at the very rear of the grid. But again, how important is that, or unimportant is that?
I would far rather have the confidence of feeling that my car was reliable for the 24 hours. I think the worry must be if this can go wrong after free practice, then what else might go wrong over the course of the race itself? So, there's that kind of reliability issue which might be playing on their minds.
However, this Peugeot 308 Cup car is now in its 3rd year of racing, I think. 2nd year as a TCR car. Certainly slightly stressed as in TCR configuration rather than how it's raced in as a Cup car in France. But reliability niggles such as gearboxes should be ironed out by now. It's not like it's a relatively new machine and they're still learning it. And they are a professional race team as well. Looks very good in that garage, isn't it?
Okay, that's a relatively new car for the Ultron team. It's into its first season in that configuration as we see, and I know it's got a history, but I'm not sure. I'm quite sure that they would have maybe done it in a slightly different way for the longer races. I mean, again, the TCR...
Certainly gearbox.
Yeah, certainly gearboxes, drive shafts, drivetrain, that sort of thing. We spoke about this earlier with regards to the 991 class in relation to the Porsches, which is basically Porsche Cup, which are geared up for 30-minute races, 30, 40-minute races. And then you bring them here and expect them to go round and round for 24 hours. It's not really for 24 hours because it's a lot longer, because we see these cars going through practice sessions, going through qualifying sessions, going through morning warm-up, and then we do 24 hours. It's like, and you don't see massive amounts of spare parts being renewed on any of these cars.
No, I mean that's part of the nature of the beast, isn't it? You bring along the parts that you think you're going to need. Gonzalo Martin de Andres brings the 908 Peugeot into the pits. The screens show us the Zest Seat Leon. That's the 105 car, which is currently in the hands of Jesus Diaz Villarroel, probably the most experienced of the lineup of drivers in that car, which includes Robert Taylor, the British driver in the Zest Seat. Another car which just improved. Chris Hoy set a best time so far in the 188 Park Algar Honda Civic. That was at 2 minutes 13. That's as quick as that car has been, although it's still second in the SP3 GT4 class, 5th overall, quicker than the Zest car, which we're seeing on the screen at the moment, 105, the plain white Seat Leon.
Yeah, but that car is yet to do a competitive lap time in terms of actually registering a time, and Chris Hoy just improved his time from a 13 down to 11, but still 11 seconds off what the TCR cars and even more, 14 seconds off what the GT4 car has done. So having looked at that machine, you wouldn't put the two in the same class, honestly. It's not a GT4 spec car. It certainly doesn't have 330 horsepower. No,
it's very much the SP2 end of the SP2 GT4, SP3 GT4 class. But Chris Hoy then with a time 2 minutes 11. And
Dan O'Brien into the pits in the Ginetta, having posted the fastest time, 1 minute 54.507, just over a second quicker than he managed in practice. So there was some time in that car. He's now brought the Ginetta into the pits.
And I would not be at all surprised, as you were saying a moment ago, Joe, we've had not even a quarter of an hour of this 45-minute session. If the other two drivers don't go out and do a 15-minute slot during this qualifying session, it's not about ultimate lap time necessarily, but really making sure that Alexander Shepp and Ollie Wilkinson are both comfortable in the car.
Just watching on the screens, if you're listening to us but not watching the stream, we do have a stream on Facebook and YouTube and on the Radio Le Mans platform as well. Just watching Chris Hoy in the Honda. Just thinking, actually, he's probably not done that much front-wheel drive driving. He trained
he did the race of remembrance in a Golf. In a Golf GTD,
was he in a Golf?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, albeit of quite a standard production.
Well, looking at this,
Golf.
looking at the Honda that's on circuit, it kind of looks like the safety car.
Let's have a word with Nick Damon, who has found something out.
I found Dan O'Brien out of the car. Dan, that was a quick quarter of an hour. Second fastest you've gone. Is that it? Parked up for the rest of the session?
Yeah, that's it. Parked for the session now. I mean, if it's enough for P1, it's enough for P1. If not, it's a long race ahead. We've got a lot of time to try and make up.
No thoughts of getting some extra track time for your teammates?
No, we're all pretty well up to speed. We're doing it with just 3 drivers this weekend, so we've all had a lot of track time. I think we'll all be fed up at Portimao by the end of the 24 hours.
You can't get fed up with Portimao. It's a fabulous track.
No, it's an amazing track, to be fair. It's the best one I've driven yet.
And where did you find that extra second just then?
Just pushing the brakes a bit. We didn't get a lot of time in free practice. We had Ollie hit a curb in one of the practice sessions, so we sidelined one of them. But no, just getting into it.
Dan, congratulations. That's Paul. I won't talk to you again. Cheers, mate. Thanks.
Oh, you've said it now, Nick David. If that's Paul, bit early to be. You should be calling it provisional, Paul.
It's certainly class pole. I don't think there's very much doubt about that.
Yeah.
I mean,
He hasn't got much competition.
and indeed,
Good point.
pole amongst the this section, this first section of just 7 cars, and it looks like from what Nick's been telling us with the 308 car having still further work done on it that we probably only have 6 cars in this session. Does mean, of course, we'll get more cars in the next session when we get the SP2s and the A6 class cars out, whilst the CAD Speed Audi RS3 receives attention down in the pits.
So that car is first in class and second overall in this particular session, so just behind the Ginetta. Interesting that the TCR Audi RS3 is quoted as having 330 horsepower. The Ginetta, 350 horsepower. So just 20 horsepower difference. 3.5 litre Ford engine in the Ginetta, normally aspirated, whereas that Audi has a 2 litre turbo engine. But of course, I think crucially around this circuit, front-wheel drive versus rear-wheel drive, especially on those rises, the front-wheel drive, I can imagine the front wheels really washing out over the crests.
Scrabbling for grip.
Whereas a rear-wheel drive will be far more balanced through some of the faster turns here, and maybe that's where the balance performance between those two classes has varied just slightly.
I think what's significant between those two cars, though, will be weight.
Yeah.
It's kind of, the weight, the power to weight ratio of the Ginetta will be a lot greater than the Audi maybe, which is predominantly started life as a production road car.
Yeah.
The Ginetta is a space frame bodied sports car, which would be a lot lighter. But it's amazing how close they are performance levels on the circuit around here.
4 seconds is the gap on the timing screens between the two, and both, top 3 are actually in the pits at the moment.
My road-going Audi has about 330 brake horsepower.
Very nice.
And Trustful uses every single brake horsepower.
Mine's got
just go to the shops.
110.
It's got 110.
110, but it's tuned by app, so it goes around the corners really well.
Excellent.
Which is what you want in the mountains.
Yes, you live in the mountains, don't you?
I might drop that in a few times.
The Park Algar car back out on the circuit. Roger Green has taken it over from Chris Hoy, so might be interesting if Nick can wander down towards the Park Algar team. Chris should be out of the car now, and as I say, it's now been taken over by Roger Green. And this is the 188 car. As wait to see if there's further improvements on that 2 minutes 11, which was Chris's best.
I think also, Paul, it's worth mentioning that the number 908, the Ultra Peugeot, has gone out. It's currently on an outlap. Now, it trails the leading TCR car by just under 1 second. And we've got now at the wheel of the 908 is the De Andres.
Yeah, but he was in it before, so I wonder whether it has
so they haven't changed drivers. It's Gonzalo Martin De Andres.
He was in it before.
Yeah.
So he has stayed in the car through pit stop and refueling.
So maybe he's just come in. Maybe the first run then was really low fuel. All he's done is come in, maybe bled out a bit of air from the tyres.
We did see him going into the refueling just now.
Yeah.
So he's going on a heavier run.
Put just enough fuel in for another run, effectively. This time on optimised tyre pressures, just seeing what they can eke out of those Hankooks. It's the sort of we're not seeing the sort of things we would see in say Formula One or even WEC, where we see an optimum tyre being used and being ready for the bin after just 3 laps of running. What we see here with the Hankook tyre, it's an endurance tyre. Let's go down to Nick, who's got Chris Hoy.
So Chris Hoy, last time I spoke to you was Le Mans about 15 months ago, and now we're in the middle of Algarve. What's been happening in your racing career since then?
Yeah, it's the first 24-hour race I've done since Le Mans in 2016, and since then I've been doing bits and bobs. I've done Caterham racing in the 310R Championship. I've got a drive in the LMP3 Cup at Donington next month. So really it's just driving wherever I can, but this has been the target for the year. I've been looking forward to racing here. There's something special about the endurance race and the 24-hour racing. It's what I love, and I'd love to get back to Le Mans eventually, if we can make that work next year.
Fan of Portimao?
I love Portimao, yeah. I've only been here once before, and I fell in love with it straight away. Just a cracking circuit, really. Well, I've not been out in a really fast car yet, only in the Civic, but I think in a fast car, some of these undulations and compressions must be pretty cool.
I was looking at the Civic. It looks pretty showroom stock. I mean, how much of a race car and how much of a road car is it?
It's 95% road car, 5% race car, really. All it is a stock Civic, different suspension, different brakes, and slick tyres, and then strip it out, put a roll cage in it, and away you go. So it is very much a, I wouldn't say a fish out of water, because it's a great road car and a great sort of sporty track car, but it's not a racing car. So we are very much at the back end of things, and if we can play the whole hare and the tortoise game as the tortoise, and just keep running, keep moving, and not have any issues, then we might beat some of the quicker teams out there.
How much running have you done in the car? Is it like, has it had a couple of days here, half an hour?
It's had yesterday. It's not. We've not had a huge amount of preparation, but really the emphasis has been on fun this weekend. It's my teammates are former colleagues from the SR1 Cup, the Radical SR1 Cup. They started racing when I did back in 2013. Roger Green, who sort of got me into motorsport, he's here racing in the team, and Joaquin as well, a Brazilian driver who now lives in Portugal, and he loves this track. So it's a sort of gentleman's fun team, but we're going to be as competitive as we can, and we're going to push as hard as we can.
You've had your go in the qualifying sessions. You're going to rotate the other drivers, and then winner buys the drinks.
Yeah. Well, I'll see how my lap times are doing. If it's looking good, then maybe that's what we should do. Yeah. I think the key thing is we're trying to protect the car and save tyres. Only 8 sets of tyres for the whole weekend, so we're not going to go out. Even if we do an amazing lap in that car, it's not going to be anywhere other than last. It's at the bottom end of the grid, so we can save the car, save the tyres, do the minimum number of laps for qualifying without pushing the car too hard. And then once the race starts, we'll settle in. And as I say, just try and keep it moving, stay out of that garage, and keep on the track, and see how we get on.
That's the key to endurance racing. Chris, enjoy your weekend. Thanks,
Thank
mate.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. And I think the most significant thing that I've taken from that interview is how Sir Chris Hoy is still friends with Roger Green, the man who introduced him to motor racing.
And for the moment, Roger Green is out on circuit and has been unable to beat Sir Chris Hoy's time. Chris Hoy had a 11.411, and Roger's last lap, middle sector looked good, but a 12.0 by the end. So they're all drivers, as Chris said. They're all used to rear-wheel drive radicals. So it's going to be a little bit of upmanship between the different drivers to see who can get the fastest time without taking too much out of the tyres, because only 8 sets over 24 hours, that's not a lot.
No, it isn't. And I think it's also a round of applause to Honda, who, that is a road-going car with a road-going engine that you can buy from a showroom and thrash to your heart's content, knowing that it's capable of being thrashed around a racetrack. Well, it's going to last you it's going to last you a very long time as your shopping car, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Considering that you can take that car, all right, modify the suspension somewhat, modify the tyres, but from an engine standpoint, in the red line, pretty much through every gear, as you do on a racetrack, that's pretty stern stuff.
And Honda Civics throughout the years, from the mid-90s, have had that reputation. The VTEC, where the first engine that came out, was just a wonderful engine. And you see so many of those cars still knocking about because the reliability was so good.
Scary to drive when you first drive a VTEC, and it does go into that red range. It's like, really?
And the best power is at 5.5.
I know. It screams. They scream. The 108 Audi at the moment has got its key factor behind the wheel, and that's no disrespect to the other drivers.
Yeah, but it's lost the position.
Racing.
It's dropped to second in class.
The man I'm talking about, everyone, is James Kerr. The James Kerr is now at the wheel of that 108, a man with a lot of history in touring cars, and familiar to British touring car fans in the UK, and with a driver lineup that looks like Ricky Coomber, David Drinkwater, Jim Briody and Eric Holstein. Strong driver lineup, quite experienced that lot, but James Kerr is the key factor in that team.
In the team, very much so, yes. He is the only other driver to be a second driver in the car. We spoke about Sir Chris Hoy handing his car over to Roger Green, and James Kay taking over from Eric Holstein is the other, as I say, 2 drivers to have participated in the session thus far. Everybody else has just either come in and gone out again, or come in and, in the case of Dan O'Brien, parked it and decided that that's as much as he needs to do. Just picking up on what you said about Sir Chris Hoy's comment about tyres. The 8 sets of tyres is a personal choice by the team. It is not something that's enforced upon them by the regulations. And I was just checking to see whether they actually have to pay for the tyres, because I've got a feeling that the tyres are... they're not free,
Part of the entry fee?
but they are part of the entry fee. But I'm not sure whether you don't get some for free and some you have to pay for. So
I'm not sure, but that sounds about right. You get an allocation with your entry fee, any additional tyres that you might want.
Yeah, but there is certainly no restriction from the regulations point of view on the number of tyres that are allowed to be used, is the point that's made.
Yeah, you can use as many tyres as you so wish.
So James Kay then in the Audi RS3 had a very, very good looking lap, and he was balked on the very final turn by the 908 Peugeot that he's trying to fight with for the pole position in the TCR class. So his last sector was where he lost the ability to take that provisional pole, and he was stuck behind Andreas, who was on a very slow lap, really touring round, and now with the Audi past him has decided to put the hammer down and go for it this lap. So strange tactics going on between those two. There's there's 0.02 of a second between the two of them.
Well, Ben, if you consider that James Kay put in a green sector 1, a green sector 2, and in the final sector was balked ever so slightly, and as a deficit of 0.021 of a second to the number 908 Peugeot. So, that would have been by far a quicker time to put the 108 Audi at the front of the TCR field. But unfortunately, and I'm not sure, and we're not saying, I don't think for sure that was a deliberate act by the 908 car. I think that was just a little bit of a coincidence that it just happened to be going slowly for whatever reason, cooling off the tyres, whatever, and it just happened to have James Kay trip over it. I'm sure James will see differently, though.
It was only the final sector that he decided to back off. He was about 20 seconds slower in the final sector alone, De Andreas, in the Peugeot, and James Kay caught him on the top of the final turn, where the circuit starts to plunge down the hill. The apex is at the top of the hill there, and that's where he caught him. So there was absolutely no way that he could easily get past without running wide. Now both of them are touring slowly round because De Andreas didn't go into the pits. He carried on. So very strange goings on between those two drivers. James Kay continues now, but the lap time is nowhere near as fast as he needs to be.
He hasn't got anywhere near the sector times. However, he may be using this as a bit of a speeding up lap. They're coming out of the final turn now. The 108 leads the 908, and James Kay exits using all the curb on the exit of the final turn. He's gathered the momentum, and he's carrying that momentum as they continue down past us across the start-finish line to start what is surely to be a go at the qualifying, the optimum qualifying time that will denote the TCR grid. And right behind him on the road, on the track indeed, is the 908 Peugeot. Currently the 908 Peugeot is second overall, but first in the TCR class, followed by the 108 Audi of James Kay, currently third overall, second in the TCR class. And we'll keep an eye on the sector times as they come through now, just crossing the timing beam now, should the Audi be. And we'll see if that is anywhere near green. It's a 37.011 against a 37.496. So the Audi is slightly faster than the Peugeot, certainly through the first sector of this lap.
On this lap, but not necessarily overall. That's a slightly slower sector time than he had when he was on his good lap 2 laps ago. So they're both pushing. It must be a way to treat these Hankook tyres by giving them a good shot, then backing off, getting them to cool down, try and get rid of some of the surface temperature, and then they work better for another lap. So James Kay continues to push. De Andreas is about 5 seconds behind him on the road, but they're both pushing to go as fast as possible. And De Andreas' middle sector is better than he's previously gone, so he could improve and pull further away from the Audi RS3.
Yep, it's looking very likely as we are already into the final sector of this Portimao lap. And we have the Audi just coming through turn 14, heading down across the undulating final turn here at Portimao, turns in, goes over the brow and plunges downhill through that never-ending right-hander that leads onto the start-finish straight, coming towards tripping the timing beam now. What will his time be? And it's not the fastest time he's posted so far. However, just behind him, tripping the timing beam, just slightly behind him, was the Peugeot of De Andres, and that Peugeot goes quicker. It's gone quicker by about 1/10 of a second. So a 1:58.311 is the time of the Peugeot. A 1:58.436 is the fastest time of the Audi so far.
Yes, the Audi's time, the 58.436 set by Eric Holstein earlier on in the session. James Kay's time on the last lap of 58.515. So he was just 1/10 of a second slower than Eric Holstein had been earlier on. Whereas in the 908 car, Andreas, 58.311 improved his time, Joe, by actually 0.7 of a second, very nearly. So it was a good improvement from De Andreas. Bear in mind, he's been in the car for a lot longer than James Kay has been, but De Andreas then in the 908 car improving by over a half a second, and to go down to that 58.311. James Kay perhaps with still a little bit of time to come. He's not as quick as just said as Eric Holstein went earlier on. So still some action still likely to come. 13 minutes of the session remain, so plenty of time.
Yeah, the first sector better than they've been before. Both of them improving, but their middle sector's not quite as good. We don't have a running clock as such, so it's hard to follow second by second if they're up or down on the pole time in TCR. They're still about 3.5 seconds away from the pole time in this particular section of qualifying. And again, the Audi RS3 plunges down the hill and decides to come into the pit. So he obviously felt midway through that lap that it was not going to be any better. And James Kay brings his car into the pits. However, De Andreas continues over the beam, and he does improve again by another 1/10 of a second. So now 2.5 tenths between the two marks. The Peugeot leads the Audi. Third place in TCR is the Peugeot of B2F competition, and then the Seat Leon is fourth, and F means finished? No, in the fueling area. Yes.
It's as if James Kay knew we were getting all excited there, wasn't it?
It's the separate refueling area, which the timekeepers helpfully tell us by putting an F in there. Don't be alarmed, though. This is a note for Ben as much as anybody else. During the race itself, they may just go F for a second. That doesn't necessarily mean they've gone into the fueling area. It just means that there is an area of the pit lane where the fueling area entry is, and then the fueling area exit. That is in the pit lane as well. So you'll see an F flash up. If it only comes up for a second, then it means not that he was very quick in the fueling area. It just meant that he's gone out of the pits without refueling.
In the battle for the 188 car, Chris Hoy and his friends, still Chris Hoy's time is the fastest. We've now got a third driver in that car and has yet to improve.
Yes, that's Mike Brooks, who's taken the 188 car over now. Matt Brooks, beg your pardon, who's taken the 188 car over. So went to Roger Green. He did 4 laps. Matt Brooks has now taken it over. Chris Hoy did 4 laps as well, so it's very fair in the Park Algar racing team. Another car that had the driver change, the one that Ben was just referring to, the B2F competition Peugeot. Thomas Fretin has taken that car over from Latitia Tortelier. And so that car, another of the ones to have the driver change. 10 minutes remain in the session, just over. New set of tyre onto the CAD Speed Audi. And so that's not necessarily saying that they won't use those tyres again, but what we have seen, and I think Joe's had the experience of talking to these drivers down in the pit lane on numerous occasions, there tend to be a couple of 3 laps in the tyres when they're brand new, and then they go down to not dropping off a cliff, but as they go down to a stable area, and provided you use them wisely, having got them onto that platform, they'll then be stable for a long time. So very often they might even consider doing double stints on them, although in the heat of Portimao, not sure whether that will be the case or not. I think there was a driver change on the CAD Speed car, and Nick Damon will tell us.
No driver change, Paul. James Kay sat there waving at people the entire time, but he did put some lovely new boots on and had a chat with Eric Holstein as well. So they did a full service, but they didn't take the driver out, and they took some temperatures. Brakes a bit steaming. Not sure if James was steaming, but he's now got some lovely fresh boots to try and get that top time.
Right, so currently he is second in the TCR class, and Gonzalo de Andreas has brought the 908 Peugeot into the pits. No sign yet of the 308 getting its gearbox stroke engine issue fixed, so that car hasn't yet come out. Matt Brooks is in the 188 Honda and circulates, although currently just out of sight of the camera because it went behind a bank, but the camera picks it up. You said that would happen, didn't you, Joe, when you were driving around? You said that the cameras would find it difficult to pick the cars up all the way round because of the undulations, and so from time to time the cars disappear behind banks.
And doesn't that just indicate just how steep those undulations are? It really is a roller coaster of a track.
And a great deal of fun nevertheless. So James Kay goes to get fuel, and in a minute he'll be out on the circuit. So we'll get another couple of laps, I would think, from the CAD Speed Audi. And so TCR, good to see some variety in the class, because it started off very much being a SEAT-dominated class, but now with Peugeot and Audi in their mix as well.
But of course, next weekend there's a 24-hour race in Barcelona, and SEAT being Spanish, they're all being saved up for next weekend's Barcelona race.
And that Ben, answers Joshua Barrett question that's just come in on Twitter as to why are the grids going down for the 24-hour series? Well, the problem with this weekend is next weekend, in consecutive weekends, we've got a 24 hours of Barcelona for our TCE championship. Creventic have realised that by creating a TCE championship, what has happened, what they thought might not happen, has happened, and that is the fact that we've now got a depleted grid on both of our championships. Well, next year, and we await with bated anticipation what the series and what form the series is going to take next year. I think there's going to be an official announcement at Barcelona next weekend. But I think we are going to see more of an amalgamated series like what we had in 16, like what we had in 15. We tried, it didn't have the desired effect, and we will, and Creventic are going to rectify it. So at the moment, we've got to deal with a 25 grid here for 24 hours at Portimao. But next weekend, the TCE Championship, I think we've got 40 entries or so. So all good.
And also, the other thing, as Radio Le Mans found, is that there's a lot of racing on this weekend. From all forms of motorsport, whether it be GTs or touring cars in various guises, there is lots of appetite for certainly GT3 racing, and therefore your grids get sort of started to spread out. You can only be at one place at one time. As many teams, not just drivers, but teams especially.
Housing the three.
They don't actually have the power to be in two places at once. We're going to have an improvement, by the way, from the B25 competition Peugeot 308. No, he was looking good in sectors 1 and 2, but failed in sector 3.
Down to the pits, Nick Dim.
Well, back with the 308, which I now confidently predict will not be taking part in this qualifying session, mainly because Sebastian has a picture of the bell housing for the gearbox not on the car, and we have 6 minutes to go or so, or 7 minutes to go. So I just think possibly that could be a bridge too far to put that back on and get 3 laps done. So desperate bad luck for them. They did the gearbox change, but in the change, something wasn't quite right. So they're having to do a double change. That must be just what every mechanic really wants in this heat.
It looks nice and shiny though, doesn't it? It's definitely new.
There's not a lot that Nick Damon misses, is there? I mean, and there's very wisely pointing out that car's not going to be able to participate. But it was the time that you were suggesting, just as we went down to Nick there, Ben, did happen. Number 335, Thomas Fretin, did improve his time. Didn't actually change his position in the order at all. He was 4th overall, 3rd TCR class, and he remained in that position, 4th overall, 3rd in TCR. But it was an improvement. At 158.970, improved his previous time. However, no sooner did he set it than the message came up on the screen that it had been deleted again because he exceeded exceeded track limits at turn 5. Now, exceeding track limits at turn 5 is a good one because that's the downhill hairpin behind the pit garages. That isn't an area necessarily that I thought would be a point for track limits. But anyway, end of the sentence, the 335 car set an improvement and then it was disallowed again before he had a chance really to score it, but it wasn't an improvement that would have improved his position on the grid anyway.
However, attention on the Audi RS3 now, James Kay. We know he's got new tyres on and he's got a clean track and he's out on circuit pushing hard. Third sector better than he's ever been before. Second sector not quite as good as his best lap, the first lap that he had on the previous set of tyres. But let's see how his third sector was. That was the sector where he had to back out of it at the final turn. So this could be an improvement. He needs to find 2.5 tenths of a second to grab the TCR pole position. He needs to find 4 seconds to get the whole pole position, which is unlikely versus the Optimum Motorsport Ginetta that's been sitting in the pits for the majority of the session. But James Kay now is through the final turn, plunging downhill. The left front tyre taking all the punishment as the circuit falls away, just about keeps the car all 4 wheels on the tarmac, crosses the beam, and he does go fastest by half a second. He had a bundle of time left in that final sector.
Almost 0.6 of a second. Yeah, right on it. James Kay, as I said, he is the hired gun in that 108 numbered Audi RS3, and there was indeed more time in that car. 1:57.605 was the time to take the James Kay driven Audi to the top of the TCR class for our grid for tomorrow's 24 Hours of Portimao. With 3 minutes to go then in this first of our qualifying session. You're listening to RadioLeMans.com and Paul Truswell.
If I was James Kay, I'd say, right, I'm coming in, I'm going to park it now because there isn't much point in trying to go any quicker than that, and I think his pace has already been reduced, in fact, on that lap. I think he felt what he could do on the previous stint when he would have been on used tyres, but an ooh from Ben Constanduras.
Because I get very excited about qualifying sessions. Time disallowed, exceeding track limits at turn 1, running wide possibly on the exit of turn 1, letting all 4 wheels off, and he is touring back to the pits, and he'll get the message on the radio, and he'll have to go again and see if he can find that time for a second time run on tyres that have done at least one lap, but he's not got much time left.
Yeah, and he's been pinged, hasn't he? He's been pinged for track limits straight away. As Ben says. So I know exactly what James will have said on the radio, but I won't repeat it now. So I doubt whether he'll come in for new tyres again. I think he'll just have to get... Exactly so. So he'll have to do it on these, as you say, Ben, slightly worn tyres, although not that worn, and he'll just have to pick up the pace towards the end of the lap and then stay out and try and see if he can get another one, or he might just say, oh, well, I'll start from second.
Exactly.
There was a good point made by Ben there on the final turn here at Portimao. It absolutely tears that left front to smithereens because the car is completely fully loaded because of the camber of the road. Is that him through turn 12 now?
Yeah, he's coming into the pits, yeah. Oh, we've got the Honda Civic pulling off to one side. It's still Matt Brooks aboard that car. He hasn't gone any faster than Sir Chris Hoy, and is that just a mistake? He's now reversing like he might be parking.
Yeah, I think he's just gone down an escape road there. He's not in the gravel. He's on the hard surface on the outside of one of our turns. It's hard to say. We've got
turn
such a
7
tight...
or 8. It's further on than that. Sorry, it says on the screen here, turn 15.
He's not going to drive across the gravel, is he? No, he's not. He's going to stay off the gravel. He's still on the hard standing. And he is about to rejoin. So I do think that's just a mistake where he's gone
quite turn 15,
sailing on.
Oh. No, it's not turn 15. I think the screen's got that one wrong. I think he was at turn 10, 11, turn 9, we're now told.
That makes more sense.
So, yes, that's...
He stalled it. Struggling to get up the hill, which suggests that that's slightly more of a problem than just simply running wide.
Yeah, turn 9, which is a sweeping left. Maybe he's... just got it a little bit awry. Now he's back onto the track at turn 10 and 11 and will be resuming. They've called it a day. The 2 TCR front runners are now in Parc Fermé, and that's the number 108 James Kay driven TCR Audi, and he has been pipped right at the very end. Whilst we've been focusing on the errant Honda Civic, DeAndres has taken the 908 Peugeot ahead of him and will take the TCR class pole position with a 1 minute 58.194, 0.242 of a second quicker than James Kay in the Audi.
That's only because the screen is showing the disallowed time. So James Kay went faster than that, but had his time disallowed. So it wasn't actually a change.
I thought that the turn 1 track infringement was on the previous lap to his fast lap.
No, that was on James Kay's 57.6. 57.6 was the time that James Kay did, but that was disallowed. But because the screen is not showing it, because it was disallowed, you get the impression that it kind of switched back again. But
right, yeah, I did. That's exactly what it did. But I thought, so Paul, so that was the way it was. Anyways, we are concluded then with 0 time. The checkered flag has been shown at the start-finish straight, and on the pole position, and in fact the quickest car overall in our qualifying session is the Optimum Motorsport Ginetta of Dan O'Brien with a 1 minute 54.5. He will be on the pole position for the Class SP3 GT4. Behind them, the 908 Peugeot of DeAndres on a 1 minute 58.194, class pole position for the TCR class for the Peugeot. The 108 numbered Audi of James Kay for second in TCR with a 1 minute 58.436. Then we've got Fretin in the number 335, again third in the TCR class with a 1 minute 59.781. Jerome in car 105, again fourth in TCR class and fifth overall with a 2 minutes 0.816. And then we've got in sixth place the number 188. That's the Honda Civic that we saw finishing that qualifying session off the track and rejoining that car, posting a 2 minutes 11.411. A troubled qualifying session for the Honda Civic, and not starting this session was the number 308. That's the Team Ultran Peugeot 308. That did not post a time and will start tomorrow's race from the very back of the grid overall.
But crucially, as Nick alluded to, Chris Hoy is buying the beers because he was the fastest guy in the Civic.
Yes, he is. So the important stuff has begun. We've had a practice session. We've had the first of our qualifying sessions here this afternoon at the Autodromo International do Algarve. And we have seen Dan O'Brien go fastest in the Ginetta for Optimum Motorsport. second qualifying session, and that's the qualifying session that will see our overall pole position being fought out with our runners in our A6 and A6 AM classes, along with our SP2 classes. Only 2 classes are here this weekend, and we'll be starting that session very shortly. Down in the pits was Nick Damon, and he will be joined very shortly by Andrew Marriott. Paul Truswell, nothing that we didn't expect, other than perhaps for me, I was surprised to see just how close the Peugeot and the Audi was, I think, with regards to a one-lap run.
I think the message that I'll take away from it is that Martin van der Paver, the race director, is very serious about track limits. We saw 2 disqualified laps there. I had a word with him after the free practice session and said that they seemed to be behaving themselves, and he said yes, he did for the most part, and he'd already brought some people in for some penalties during the free practice session for exactly that. It was explained to them very clearly during the drivers' briefing that track limits would be penalised severely, and equally when they get to the qualifying session, it's a similarly serious offence as far as they're concerned. So good to see Martin Paver taking the offence seriously. And I think the other aspect to it is that you've got to be consistent. We've always said this. You've got to be consistent with the imposition of the penalty, and that's seemingly what's going to happen now. With a TCR class car, or even an SP3 class car, a GT4 class car, you've got much less power, much less likelihood, therefore, of going off the track on the exit of corners or across the inside of curbs. With an A6 car, with a GT3 class car, or the SP2 class cars, which are quicker still, or quicker than the cars we've just seen, then I think we could be seeing more track limit violations. But it does mean that the drivers do have to take this seriously. And if you're a team manager, then you need to be saying to your driver, look, we do need to keep the car between the white lines. We do need to keep it off the curbs. In any case, you want to try and keep it off the curbs because you're going to do damage to it. But apart from anything else, you're also going to get pinged and you're going to lose your lap time. So I'm glad to see, in a way, that those offences have been properly penalised.
And of course, race control are using these sessions, and probably the night session as well, to kind of establish the rules. And they'll be extra strong now, so that hopefully in the race the drivers know not to make any errors, because they'll go and get penalties, and kind of establish how strict a rule set they will run to in the practice sessions.
Exactly.
Maybe even more so than you'd run normally.
Yeah, no, exactly so, and I think that's that's how the any game gets policed is by strong refereeing, and as I say, it's good to see that was applied. Sympathies to James Kay,
especially as, of course, he made the breach in turn 1. Yeah. Yes, he found a tiny bit of time there, but he found half a second in the final sector where he didn't have a breach. Yeah.
So as you say, it's not as if he gained an advantage from the overstepping the track limit. I think it's really just a matter of, you use the phrase, I don't know if you did it deliberately or not, but drivers making a mistake. Sometimes it is making a mistake which causes them to go off the track, and that's where it then becomes a matter of judgment sometimes for the race director to say whether it was a mistake that you were trying to correct and it wasn't a deliberate act going off the track. But again, it's a bit like any other sport where the referee or the umpire has to judge whether a particular offence was done deliberately or not. And even if it wasn't done deliberately, very often they get penalised for clumsiness, whether that's clumsy driving or clumsy actions on a sports field. But it teaches you the lesson, and I think once you've learnt the lesson, then you can go forwards.
I think the point about driving, especially cars with less downforce, is they certainly on corner, mid-corner and corner exit, they are literally drifting through the turns, not like you would know a drift car to be doing, but they're on the very limited of adhesion and kind of drifting towards the end of the corner, and then you want the car to grip just at the right point and go again. And if it doesn't go again, if it doesn't grip again, then what happens is you overstep the mark.
Yeah, quite. But as I say, that's all part of the judgment of what you're trying to do. So I'm sure the marshals, judges of fact around the circuit, and say the race director up in race control with the various closed circuit TV screens that they've got up there will be keeping an eye on this upcoming qualifying session. It will be a further 45 minutes.
But we do have a few more cars.
We do have a few more cars, yes. There should be 18 of them coming out, which means I need to adjust your screen, which
absolutely.
I'll do in a minute. And it will be for the cars in the A6 Pro and AM classes and the SP2 class. I think that's pretty much all we've got. There was going to be a car in a separate Porsche Cup class, but that didn't happen. He's been amalgamated into the SP2s as well. So it will either be SP2 or A6 Pro and A6 AM. And the only doubt there is that the A6 Pro AM, if you go underneath the minimum reference lap time in an A6 AM car, you automatically get bumped up into the A6 Pro class. So if you're planning to run as an AM, then you need to make sure that you don't qualify too quickly. As otherwise you'll end up not getting any advantage at all.
And that's where we're going to see some gamesmanship, some small playing, I guess, because everyone will want to be as high up the grid as possible, but at the same time they can't exceed that particular or go under that particular time. So you're going to have a lot of people squabbling over the milliseconds around that particular time, which is a 1/5. Well, have they decided yet?
Well, the last bulletin I had said it was going to be a 1:49.
Yeah.
So the initial bulletin was 1:47, but I think it's going to be a 1:49. And then within the A6 AM, this is answering another question which was posed earlier on Twitter, there are two classes. There's BOP Advantage and then there's BOP Neutral. So under 1:49, you're automatically into the Pro class. Between 1:49 and 1:51, you're in the neutral phase, where you get 0 kilograms of weight, 0 refueling limit, and if you're in the AM, if you're over 1:51, then you're in the BOP Advantage, where you can go at the 1:51. So we'll see what actually happens come the qualifying session. But as I say, certainly as far as Hoffa Racing is concerned, they're definitely going to be racing in the AM class. The Wochenspiegel Team Monschau team, the 488 Ferrari, has already in the free practice session gone underneath the minimum reference lap time, so we may well see a change of class already for the 488 Ferrari. Yes, in fact, that's happened. The car collection Audis 34 and 32 are both classified as AM class cars, and yeah, so that's it. So it's Hoffa Racing. Oh yes, and we've got the one of the two Renaults, the GP Extreme car number 27 is running in A6 AM. So that means we're going to have 5 cars. No, we're not. We're going to have 4 cars running in the A6 AM class, which is bad news in a way for Hoffa Racing because it limits the number of points that Hoffa Racing can score in the championship. But we'll work that one out if I get the right piece of paper. So yes, it'll mean that Hoffa Racing's maximum score is going to be only 40. Why can you never find the right piece of paper when you're looking for it? There we are. It means that Hoffa Racing's maximum score will only be 42 points, whereas Herbert Motorsport will be pitching to score, well, they'll also be on 40. No, they'll be pitching to score 44 points. So Herbert Motorsport could gain their 2 points if both Herbert Motorsport win the race and Hoffa Racing win their class. Then we could have a tie for the championship in terms of teams, and then we'll have to go back to second and third places to resolve that tie.
However, at the moment, the 911 Herbert Motorsport Porsche is actually listed as a AM car on our timing screens. So that's possibly a mistake.
Or they may have chosen.
Or they may have chosen to compete directly.
Yes.
Which will be very, very interesting.
And that can they? I think they can they can also be moved class by the organisers. Obviously, they have to fit the AM criteria. You couldn't put a team of 3 professional drivers in one car into the AM category, the AM class, but they can put people into the AM class from the A6 class. We've got a green flag at the pit exit, which means that we are qualifying. And this qualifying session, again, another 45 minutes of qualifying, this time though for our A6 Pro and AM classes, and our SP2 classes. Invariably, our overall pole position for the inaugural 24 Hours of Portimao will come from one of our A6 runners, and down in the pits joining us for the first time in an official qualifying session here this weekend is Andrew Marriott. Andy.
Certainly, and the down has just gone out, so it's the way. Porsche, the second car collection car, and then Ferrari after that. I was trying to get an interview with Dan O'Brien, obviously fastest in the previous session. He's still sat at his next because they're doing a setup on the car, but he's got his helmet. I'm going to dive in and hopefully you'll get me here, or maybe I can persuade him to even get out of the car. Okay, I think you probably get having problems getting me at the moment. How are you doing?
No, we
nice
we
to see
can
my
hear.
cameraman Seb I've just met up with here.
Yes, that'll be better when you find Seb.
I found Seb, there he is. And here I am. I say Dan O'Brien sat in the car there, son of Michael O'Brien, is a leading contender in the Ankara Rally Championship. And Dan's a bit of an all-rounder, actually, because he's done quite a bit of rallying successfully over the years. His dad is one of those big Irish guys that digs up our motorways and digs up our roads all the time. So Mike O'Brien's vehicles you'll see all over, certainly London, digging up the roads and causing us all sorts of traffic problems. Dan's a young driver, very quick. Just with that Ginetta, no Adrian Barwick in the car this weekend. Not quite sure that, try and check that out. But obviously the faster car's now on the track, and as soon as we can, we'll catch up with who's going quickly.
We had a great view of the... we were on board initially with Milos Pavlovic, and it was just a great opportunity to see the undulations of this circuit. Now with Feldmar Jr. in the car collection Audi R8. And if you do have a stream, you can see this amazing circuit and how it goes up and down and up and down. This is the 31 car coming towards the final part of the lap now. Drops down through this hairpin at turn 14 and then goes back up the hill towards turns 15. This is the last corner of the lap. Look where the apex is there, just at the crest of the hill, and then plunges down. I apologise if you don't have the timing, the live stream in front of you. I'll do my best to describe it rather than saying, look at that. Across the pit straight, which is completely flat, but the approach to it and then the dive towards the first corner, quite aggressive, especially going into the first turn, which is quite fast in the particular configuration that we have today. It's not the GP circuit, is it?
No,
is
it's called the LMS circuit.
The LMS circuit. The GP circuit would turn a bit harder right at that first turn. Back on board then with Feldmar Jr. Now the run down towards turn 5 of the lap, and drops down into probably the tightest corner of the lap. Turn 5 hairpin, hooks the apex on the inside, a bit of oversteer on the exit, climbs back uphill now. Again, where's the track going? You can't see where it's going. Apex to the left, that's pretty much an acceleration zone, but you need to stay left to make the best of turn 6 and turn 7. Late apex to turn 7 because again we're climbing up the hill. Where's the circuit going? I've no idea. Then it got really aggressive back downhill. And we described it as a roller coaster earlier on. It really is. And again, you have no idea where it's going. It turns to the right there, but you want to stay right at that point. You need to know these things. And now downhill and then through turn 12, which is again the climb up towards 13. Braking zone at 13, because it's so aggressively uphill, you can brake much later. Car squirming around underneath him. Pretty much the top part of the circuit here into 14. Not necessarily the ideal racing line through there. It's a long apex. And now gets the power down and towards again turn 15. Fantastic corner. Wow, you feel your stomach go. The car looks absolutely planted through the final turn. Gives lots and lots of margin for error on the track limits. And Feldmeyer Jr. goes fastest with a 1:47.465. But Malucci behind him in the Ferrari goes fast still.
Andrew Marriott has found Mr. James Kay.
Well, James, we thought you were going to be fastest there, and then they docked you for going a bit wide.
Yeah, unfortunately, the last lap, I only had a few seconds left to get a time in, and I just got one wheel too many over the white line.
You're having a good battle with that Peugeot. You seem to be similar performance.
I think there was a few things went on in that practice session which the clerk of the course is going to look at. We got we had a time a lot earlier in the session, quite a bit faster, but the Peugeot decided to pull onto our racing line.
We saw that.
Which, you know, is... I don't mind those tactics. Let's just see what happens in the race.
Yeah, interesting. Well, very well done. It's a good lap anyway.
Thank you, thank you.
We called it. We did say that, didn't we? That there might have been a little bit of strange going on.
I didn't like to think that was deliberate. What did I say? I did say, I'm sure that's not deliberate. However, James Kay won't see it that way.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's focus then on what the cars we've got out on circuit. GT3 spec machines and a couple of Porsches in the SP2 category. And plenty of times coming in. We're down to the 44s now. With the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 of Conrad Motorsport, not a team that we see often in the 24-hour series. I think Franz Conrad is part of the driver lineup this weekend, so enjoying a bit of time in one of his cars, probably running about 15 in the Porsche Super Cup as well, as he tends to do. And it's Mappelli who is in the car at the moment. 1:44.946 is his fastest time, half a second faster than Malucci in the Ferrari 488 GT3 car that went provisionally fastest about half a minute ago.
Malucelli.
I know I'm going to get that wrong. Oh, Andrew?
Mappelli has got a very good record, actually. He's an official factory Lamborghini driver. He's had some good results with Conrad. So he's a quick boy. In fact, last year he raced in the Blancpain Series in the sprint section with Barwell Motorsport. So he's a favoured son of Lamborghini, so he's a pretty quick boy. And yes, I think you're right. I think Franz Conrad, who remember all those years ago being an official Jaguar Silk Cut driver at Le Mans, he will be driving in that car as we got another Lamborghini coming up right behind us, and Seb his knees just buckled a little bit because it came up behind us a bit quicker than we expected, and there it is. So early days yet in this session, but maybe Lambo can spring a surprise. This year they've been going very well in the Blancpain series, running on the Pirellis. I'm not sure they like these Hankooks as well, though.
Not the first time we've seen a Lamborghini, a Grasser Racing Lamborghini, at the front of the field in the 24-hour series race. We have got a red flag, though. Not quite sure what has brought the red flag conditions out, but the session has been stopped with 37 minutes remaining. So we've already begun. It's the Vortex.
The Vortex.
Yeah, the 203, the 204 numbered Vortex. With who is at the wheel of that one? It is Martin Gauche. Martin Gauche at the wheel, and that car has just stopped out on track. It hasn't hit anything. It's just pulled off at the side, and already we have a rescue truck going to its aid. We'll find out what the problem is and hopefully get that car recovered somewhere safe so we can resume our qualifying session, Paul.
Yes, and with less than 8 minutes of the session gone, we've already had 3 cars who have had their time disallowed. We were talking about that in the little gap between the 2 sessions, but the number 2 Black Falcon Mercedes, the 963 Lamborghini, we were talking about that one. That's the car car that Milos Pavlovic was driving, I think 963. Yes, it was Pavlovic driving the Grasser Racing Lamborghini. They had their time disallowed, as did Marco Mappelli, having been giving him the credit there by Andrew Marriott a moment ago. But the Conrad Motorsport Lamborghini, number 21, Marco Mappelli, also having that time disallowed because of track limit violation. So if you're a team manager, then you very seriously must get on the radio and say, look, you've got to keep off the curves, you've got to keep it within the white lines, because otherwise you are going to get your time disallowed. Now, just reflecting on the moment that we had just before the session started, the 911 Herbert Motorsport Porsche, as Ben rightly pointed out, has been listed for this session as being in the AM class. Now that is going to put 6 cars into the AM class, which is going to mean that the championship, as far as the teams is concerned, for A6 teams, there's one championship for A6 teams which combines the pros and the AMs together, and you score points depending on whether you're in the A6 AM or the A6 Pro. Now, what Herbert Motorsport may well be thinking is, rather than necessarily getting their own score of points, what they're going to try and do is to take points off Hoffa Racing, because by going into the AM class, they can prevent Hoffa Racing from winning the AM class, they think, provided their drivers can stick below the minimum reference lap time. Now, the car hasn't actually exited the pits yet, although I think once we get a green flag, once the vortex is retrieved, I don't think that's going to take very long.
No, it's already on the tow rope being dragged back, Paul.
So the session will then get underway again. The clock has stopped, so I think the time may get added on to the end of the session, and then, as I say, we'll see the Herbert Motorsport car being the first onto the track as soon as the green flag is waved at the end of the pit lane.
The Pro Sport Performance Porsche is the other car that we've yet to see out on circuit, the 85 machine. And the Audi had only just gone out, the Audi TT RS2, the LMS racing machine. That was just heading out on its outlap when the red flag came out. So those are the cars that have yet to set a time, along with Wolf Hensler.
Pierre Caffer was driving the Audi, wasn't it? The session will resume in 1 minute's time, so 2 minutes to 6 o'clock local time, the session will be resumed.
Worth pointing out also that the vortex didn't make contact with anything. The car is actually being towed at speed back to the pit lane. So obviously a mechanical problem rather than a driver-related issue with that machine. Funny looking thing. I was trying to do some research on it online a bit earlier, and not so easy to find information on it. It turns out to be a motorbike. If you do,
turns out to be a motorbike.
Yeah, it's weird.
No, it's not a motorbike.
It reminds me of the Praga. Do you remember the Czech Praga vehicle? ARC Bratislava used to run it.
Oh, really? Yes, I think I do. I have a vague recollection of that.
It was yellow.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically a space frame car and with an engine bolted to the back of it. But before we wax more lyrical about the vortex, let's head down to the pits where Andrew Marriott is waiting for us.
Well, firstly, the vortex just come past me on the end of a tow rope. Secondly, I've just been in the Herbert Motorsport garage, spoke to one of the Renault twins. I've no idea which one it was, because he was in civvies. Well, I think it was... no, I don't know which one it was, really. And they say they're going to decide after qualifying which class they're going to run in, but they're sort of thinking they'll do the AM class, but they haven't finally decided.
Okay, good work, Andrew. I guess the thing to find out is whether it's purely to take points off Hoffa Racing, which is what I think they're doing it for, rather than scoring points themselves. Because
if they'll ever admit that.
Yeah, well, quite, yes. Because if they would run in the Pro class, it would put the Pro class up to 7 cars and the AM class down to 5 cars. So it would reduce the number of points which Hoffa Racing could score anyway. So, as I say, if Herbert would move into the Pro class, then Hoffa Racing could only score 42 points by winning the class, whereas by moving into the Pro class, it would give them the opportunity to score 44 points. But more importantly, perhaps, the gap back to second place place, result of finishing in second place, would go down to 39 points for Hoffa Racing. But the two of them separated by just 2 points in terms of the class teams per class standings. If you're listening online and you've got access to the 24hseries.com website, then if you go along to the standings section of that, the website will update itself live during the race. So when we get into the race situation, you should be able to see what the championship positions should be updated live on your screens on the website. So that's what we'll be doing.
And previously, that's only ever happened in Paul Trustwell's brain. We've never actually been able to see it live, which is very exciting.
It's quite a complex way that they do the points. And of course, this is not just the final round of the International Endurance Series, but it's also a round of the Champion of the Continent Series, which is the way that you then get the COTA race as part of a championship. And what you do there, think about this, Ben, is you take your result from the Dubai 24 hours, which is on one continent, your best result from Europe, which could be any of Zandvoort or Imola.
We haven't been to Zandvoort this year, Paul. Don't complicate it.
Right, okay.
Mugello, Paul Ricard, Imola, Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, any of the GT races, and then you add that to the points you score from COTA. So you kind of take 1 + 1 + 1, but the one in the middle is the European round. You can choose which one you take.
Is that just the 24-hour races, though, Paul?
No, it's. I think it's. I'll have to check that one. Let me check the Champion of Continents. There is that championship. Then there is also
there's more.
There is also the championship for drivers. There's then a new championship for amateur gentlemen, and that's in A6. Amateur gentlemen, so that there's always a championship, and whoever will be managing the podium celebrations at the end of this one can go with my good luck and good wishes.
Thankfully, we have a 24-hour race to explain it all.
Yes, and I'm going to say this for your benefit, Ben, because you are new to 24H Series racing and Creventic Series racing, and also for any listeners or viewers that are new to this series, the whole concept of what Creventic do, their customers are the competitors. So if there is, a trophy to be given out for whatever, then we will find somewhere to give someone a trophy for, completing whatever. And that's why we have all of this, all of what Paul has just described there. There's so many, a myriad of. You can imagine what the trophy presentation night's all about. Andrew, I think you want to say something?
Well, just to update you on the 204 car, which we saw come on a tow road, that's a problem with the steering wheel. It's one of those electronic steering wheels. Lots of stuff goes through it, and it's not talking properly to the rest of the electronics, so they're playing with that at the moment. I expect they'll sort it out, but that was the reason it came in on the end of that tow road.
Thanks, Andrew. I did describe that car as a simple space frame chassis with an engine attached. It's not that simple a space frame chassis. It is a pucker race car with all that goes with a modern standard of race car, i.e. engine management systems, electronics that are just black magic wizardry. But fundamentally, it's a space frame with an engine and all that goes with it. So good luck to the Vortex team. And hopefully they did, because they had some dire luck in Imola, didn't they? They had a huge shunt in the practice sessions, and they didn't take part in the 12 hours at the previous round. So that car fully rebuilt and back out, and hopefully it's just maybe a niggly little problem from that rebuild.
And the answer to the question about 12 hours or 24 hours,
yes.
You can use either of them, but you score more points in a 24-hour race than
so
you do in a 12
use the points
point.
from.
So you use the points from your best European race, and you're more likely to have scored better points in a 24-hour race, but that's not necessarily so. Fastest on the timing screen at the moment is the number 11 Scuderia Praha Ferrari. Matteo Manicelli has set the fastest time for 1 minute 45.495. However, that's not the fastest time we've seen, because that was set by Marco Mappelli at the wheel of the Conrad Lamborghini, 144.946. 1:06. That time was disallowed though, so we don't see that one. So instead of that, the number 21 Lamborghini is languishing more than somewhat down in 11th place overall, Mapelli having brought it in after that fast lap. And his best lap that he's been credited with is a 1 minute and... lost him again, 1 minute 44. Oh, I see, yes, in fact, he's got one. His best lap was a 1 minute 50.183. His last lap was a 1 minute 44, which was the one that just disallowed, of course.
That doesn't count though, Paul, because it's not the fastest lap, because it's not within the constraints of the circuit.
Indeed.
Definitely doesn't count.
Just go around in a big circle.
Did a shortcut.
Yeah.
Have we just worked out what that time is yet?
And let's go down to the pits. Sorry to butt in, guys, but Franz Conrad is waiting patiently with Andrew Marriott.
Yeah, Franz is waiting with me, and he made the sign of "I want money," so maybe he wants to be paid to be interviewed now, like Jackie Stewart. Franz, car's going well, but track limits got you. Can the guy Mapelli do a quick lap without going off the track?
Yeah, he was a little bit out in the quick lap, so it doesn't matter. He can do it again, and he will do it right now in the second set of tires. So everything is fine, and I want money from you. That was right. I don't have enough money. I exploded the engine already. So
Car's going well. I mean, you should be right in the hunt here. But you're going to drive as well during the night?
Yeah, it's the plan. I'm an old man. When it's getting too hot, I think it's better to drink a beer.
That's Franz Conrad. Remember him all those years ago, racing that Jaguar's first Silk Cut team. He was a fast runner.
He still is, and he's being very humble there when he mentions that the only reason they're putting him in the night is because of the reduction in ambient temperature, and he can only race in the cool. Yeah, I think that's just because he's sensible. I don't think that has any kind of indication of just what his performance levels will be, because he can still show those younger drivers a thing or two, and all that experience from Franz Conrad we will see later on in the weekend in the Grasser Racing Lamborghini.
Yeah, his driver is winding up for a lap. They sit in 11th position, Mapelli, at the moment on a 50.1. That's the lap that's counted, but he's coming towards the end of the lap now and should be able to start pushing. We've got a new fastest man, Jordan Kroger, in a 1:45.289 in the Renault RS1, which is good to see at the top of the timesheets. So that's 2/10 faster than Malucelli in the Ferrari, and hopefully that lap sticks. We've still got half an hour remaining of the session, so plenty of time to do improvements. And only now are we seeing the Pro Sport Performance Porsche 991 Cup car coming out to circuit. So presumably they've had a few issues with that car.
With the SP2 class car, you mean?
Yeah.
The number 85 car. That's another car that's challenging for the championship in terms of drivers, at least. The four drivers of the car are all in with a shout at getting the overall championship, and SP2 is a very populous class. So if they win their class, I think they will win the drivers' championship. We need to work that one out, but they'll certainly be in with a good shout if they win their class, the number 85 Pro Sport Porsche. Meanwhile, the 911 numbered Porsche, which runs in the A6, it may be AM, is, well, it's depending on what the minimum reference lap time is, because we've been told it's a 1:49, and Ralph Bone at the wheel of the 911 has just done a 1:47.719, so it may well be that minimum reference lap time has been changed, and I will ask head boy Joe Bradley if I'm allowed to just pop out for a minute to talk to race admin to see if that has been published. Am I allowed to pop out, Joe?
You can pop out. I'm not really sure what that means, but if you mean leave the booth, yes, of course, Paul. You're on a mission, a research mission.
Just to check what the minimum reference lap time is for A6 Pro, because the 911 car has gone underneath what I'm told is the minimum reference lap time, unless it has been changed again.
Okay, yeah, Paul, have a pop out. I'll just have to contradict myself. I mentioned Franz Conrad was going to be at the wheel of the Grasser Lamborghini. Of course he's not. He's at the front. He's in the Conrad Racing Lamborghini. That's very confusing.
That'd be good if he just switched
teams. Yes, absolutely, switch teams.
Managed one team and drove for another.
Yeah, you never know with Franz Conrad. Like you said, do anything for money.
the Grasser car has gone fastest of all with Milos Pavlovic aboard. A 1:45.012 now, 2.5 tenths faster than Jordan Kroger had gone a couple of moments ago. Interesting, race control is trying to get Wolf Hensler into the pits in the 29 Porsche Racing Porsche 991.
He's into the pits now.
He's apparently got a leak. So that's one for Andrew Marriott to go and have a look at. Told to come into the pits, repair the leak, and then you can go back out to circuit. So obviously Marshall's out on track had seen that leak because he's been doing a couple of laps. He's 5th fastest. It's not slowing him down that much.
No, I wonder what the leak is, whether it's coolant, whether it's engine oil. I'm sure the team will be interested to plug that leak of whatever it is. But our eagle-eyed marshals and corner workers have spotted something amiss on the 29 Porsche, and Wolf Hensler has brought that car into the pits now to get that sorted out. On an outlap is Stewie Hall, having taken over the wheel of the number 27 RS01 Renault, and he will be circulating in that, and I'm sure we're going to see that car now optimised. That's car 27, the GP Extreme Renault RS01, out onto his outlap in the hands of British driver Stuart Hall.
Fantastic onboard shots of Milos Pavlovic coming through the final couple of turns of the lap now. His first sector was better than he went last time through. He is our provisional pole man. He comes now to cut the line. Is it going to be an improvement on time? Not quite. He misses out just by 1.5 tenths. Really hustling the car in the second sector of the lap. Really opposite lock and then trying to get the car onto the apex. Looks quite dramatic inside the cockpit. Sometimes that's not necessarily a good thing, but even the shots from outside the car's dancing around on the bumps, and the Lamborghini doesn't look settled. It's not the kind of car I'd like to sit in for a full stint in a 24-hour race. Look at it rotating from the rear as they go through turn 4, now towards turn 5, hard on the brakes. Nose will dive going downhill. The rear will feel very, very light, and it completely misses the apex of turn 5. So out-braked himself and now climbs up the hill. Is that Andrew in the pits?
No, continue. We're staying on board with Pavlovic.
Oh, I know. That was a director
absolutely.
who's downstairs.
Yeah.
Oh, Andrew, do you want to be here?
No, we want you to continue round.
On Pavlovic, remember him doing the Renault 3.5 World Series a few years ago. It was the year that Vettel came into that series. Pavlovic finished 3rd and Vettel finished 5th.
Did he not finish the season though, Vettel? That was when he went off and did.
I think you're right. Yeah.
I think that was when he went off and did Toro Rosso midway through the season.
Yeah, you're right. But he did race to it with him wheel to wheel.
Pavlovic is a very good runner. Very, very good. In middle sector, best of anybody. But ahead of him, Malucelli's just gone faster in the Scuderia Prara Ferrari. So Pavlovic is going to have to regain pole position here.
Quickly from me, did you say it was the Wolf Hensler car that had the...
yes, Andrew. Car 29.
I'm with it. I've walked round it. There's nothing dripping underneath it at all.
All right, what
show under the car. Maybe the marshal picks the car number up or something.
I'm sorry, Andrew, you turned into Davros, head of the Daleks there for a moment.
Right.
We didn't quite get all of that report.
I'll try again. Seb is going to show you around the car. We can't see any leaks at all, so I think maybe the marshal was mixing the car up with another one.
Right. So what that means, indeed, is that there may be a car out there that's been misidentified, and that means that there's still a car maybe leaking something from it out on the circuit. But Ben, you mentioned that Malucelli has gone quickest in the Scuderia Prara Ferrari. No stranger to the front of the field in the 24-hour series, and we have seen over the course of the year how the battle for pole position has seemingly been always with the Ferrari of Scuderia Prara, the Grasser Lamborghinis, and now the Conrad Lamborghini in the form of Mauro Mapelli.
Malucelli's just gone faster again. He's improved by 0.2 of a second. So now the gap is close to half a second between him and Pavlovic. Mapelli up to 3rd position, as you say, in the Conrad Motorsport Lamborghini. So Lamborghini 2nd and 3rd. And we switch our attention now to the SP2 class, I believe. That's the number 2 car.
Yeah, that's the Mercedes GT4, not GT4 spec quite as yet because it hasn't been homologated. But right now, it's the Black Falcon. We've got them denoted as test team. So this car is out. It was at the Nürburgring last weekend, and we see it here, and it's great to see it here at Portimao for the 24 Hours of Portimao, and it's great to have that car circulating. It's currently down in 15th place, and it's in the hands at the moment of Oral Schuler, who's circulating at a very slow pace. All the rest of the competitors out on track absolutely pouring by him, and into the pits has come the number 963, the current second place on the grid of Pavlovich.
Yeah, so Pavlovich is out now.
Yeah, Pavlovich is out. Let's. Did you see who got in, Ben?
I didn't, but who's it likely to be? Because I think there's at least 2 very, very good drivers in the entry list.
I would think they'd probably put Rick Breukers in there.
Rick Breukers. Yeah, well done, Paul. Have you achieved your mission also?
So, yes, mission has been achieved, and further data has been gathered as well. So, yes, I got a bonus bit of information as well. So, first of all, is to say that the minimum reference lap time for A6 is a 1 minute 47 seconds. So, the 911 Porsche is still in the ballpark for AM. Ralph Bone out there, 147.719 is his best time. However, it's not the quickest time in the A6 AM class, because that has gone to Stewie Hall at the wheel of the 27 GP Extreme Renault RS01. He's done a 1 minute 47.444. So you're kind of trying to get the quickest lap you can out of the car, but without breaking into the 146s. So you've got 147.2 for the Renault, 147.4 for the Renault, 147.46 for the car collection Audi, and then a 147.7 for the Herbert Porsche.
In the final sector of the lap is Jordan Kroger in the Renault RS1 GT3 car for GP Extreme. This is the Pro entry, the other is the AM entry of Stewie Hall. He's in the final couple of corners, and this could be an improvement. He's 0.7 of a second down on Malucelli's fastest time, but he was the fastest man of anybody through the Sector 1. Now comes through Sector 2 and through the final couple of corners. And let's see if this is a better lap time. The man he's trying to chase down is a Scuderia Prara car. Malucelli aboard that car and still rotating around the circuit. Jordan Kroger goes second fastest, just 2.5 tenths off. Milos Pavlovich, however, is down in the pit lane with Andrew Marriott.
He certainly is, with his film star good looks. Milos, good lap, Milos, but you've just been pipped by Malucelli.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, we're here to do our best. You know, I haven't spent much time in the car, only 10 laps in pre-practice. So, you know, we put together something decent. There is margin because the car is set up for the gentleman drivers, but overall I'm very happy for me, for the lap, and for the team as well, you know.
And you've got another good driver in Rick Breukers, of course, fast driving the car.
Yeah, Rick is a top driver. Also we have Mauro and then the other 2 gentleman drivers, Roberto and Christoph. But, you know, I think we have a good field. We're going to do Pro this weekend. And I'm happy about it because it means I can go every lap as much as I can or once, so it's good.
We were just talking over the commentary and remembering you racing in Renault 3.5 and racing against Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah, those were the times, you know, when I was racing cars without doors, but yeah, life, what you can do. I'm very happy to be here now with Lambo, and you know, I'm going to do my best as always. You know, I'm a lucky person, it's good.
It's a great circuit as well, isn't it?
Yes, it's amazing. It doesn't give you a moment to breathe, you know. You have to push left, right. It's amazing. It's one of my favorites.
Thanks very much for your time. Well done. Nice guy.
Yeah, certainly sounds in a very talented driver, Pavlovich there. He didn't really want to talk about his past. I'm not saying he sounded at all bitter, he didn't. He's just being very pragmatic, and he is a very lucky guy to be driving a Lamborghini here in the 24-hour series.
I think career longevity is what a lot of it is about.
Yeah.
I mean, if he had have made it in single-seater racing, you almost certainly wouldn't still be driving. So I think that's a lot to do with it. One of the think just to go back to messages received from race control, I suggested that the clock had stopped when we had the red flag. Although it did stop, it's kind of caught up with itself again. So the time that we lost during the red flag is not being added on. So we have 16 minutes of the session still to go, as the original schedule would have had it.
No, we've got.
It has been added on. Sorry, not all of it has been added on, I think, is the problem. So some, but not all. So 16 minutes of the session still to go.
And Jordan Kroger has gone faster again whilst you were chatting to Milos Pavlovic. GP Extreme Renault RS1 is now 1/100th of a second slower than Malucelli, so not on pole position, but a tiny margin between the top two cars. And Kroger was trying to go for a third lap, but I don't think he's got the pace in the tyres any longer to improve that time. There's nearly half a second back to Rick Breukers, but I wonder if Breukers can improve in the car that Pavlovic has set that time on.
Not only that question, Ben, but also the Conrad Motorsports car, Marco Mappelli, having had his time disallowed earlier on, is now going back out onto the circuit again at the wheel of the number 21 car. So we've got one Lamborghini challenging, and then the other Lamborghini is also now back out on the circuit with Marco Mappelli at the wheel. Or he's not actually back out on the circuit yet, but he's in the refueling area, ready to go out onto the circuit.
Yeah, so Jordan Kroger abandons that last lap, comes into the pits, and will they have? They've got time to put some tyres on and have another go.
He's probably needing fuel, Ben. That's why he's probably going out with a very, very low fuel tank, and as much as he'd probably like to stay out and keep that momentum going, he's having to come in. We'll keep an eye on the Kroger Renault and see if he does. In fact, he'll go into his pit garage first, maybe for a new set of tyres. Not really sure whether there's any time in a brand new set of these Hankooks, or whether they are better to be scrubbed in. We've got sitting very, very nonchalantly on the pit apron is Mauro Malucelli, who currently is our provisional pole sitter for not just the A6 Pro class, but our 24-hour series Portimao round altogether. The overall pole position provisionally held by that Ferrari. Kroger in the number 28 Renault is second, and then Rick Breukers now at the wheel of the 963 Lamborghini. We'll see if Rick will be indeed the fastest driver in the Grasser Racing Lamborghini. He'll want to be bettering a 1 minute 45.012, which, as we earlier spoke to Pavlovic, who told us a little bit about how that time was achieved. He described the lap here, but importantly, out on the track and a car to watch is the number 21 Conrad Racing Lamborghini. Mauro Mappelli did go fastest overall earlier in the session, but his time was disallowed because of a track limits infringement. Well, let's see if he can stay within the constraints of the Autodromer International and go quicker still.
I think we might see an improvement from Wolf Hensler. He was forced into the pits in the Porsche Racing Porsche to have a look at a mystery leak that apparently wasn't there. He went faster in Sector 1 than he's been before, and he's at the final sector now, coming across the line. And in fact, it's not an improvement. So he stays last of our A6 Pro cars. The guy ahead of him, though, in the second of the Ferrari 488s, is looking to improve. Better first sector and second sector than he's been before. This is Krumbach just coming to the line now. Any moment now he should cut the line. It's not going to be a huge improvement from him. He's just 1.1 seconds back, and he does not improve his time. He misses out by just 100th of a second, actually. So it was an equally good time. He stays in 5th position.
And that's the other Ferrari we've been talking about, the Wochenspiegel team, Monschau. We are on board in any moment now with the Grasser Ferrari of Rick Breukers. So Rick Breukers, the young driver, just coming off the success in the Asian Lamborghini Trofeo with a race win out at Fuji in Japan. So through turn 2 into the very heavy braking area, into the hairpin at turn 3, clips the apex there at the yellow internal sausage curb just on the on the apex there, flat out through their acceleration zone, which is a very sweeping uphill left-hander, and onto the back straight behind the paddock. He'll plunge downhill into a very heavy braking area for a left-hand hairpin, turns in very late indeed, late apex there, gets back on the power using all the track, all the curbing on the right-hand side now, sweeping left-hand through, clinging to that curb on the left-hand side to optimise the turn-in point for the right-hander there, and then in the tighter right-hander, almost hairpin there, he'd go up over a blind brow. Where is the track? Where is it going? He's got to know this track by now. Downhill on the roller coaster part of the track and sweeping left hand up through and into turn 10. That was through 9. We go into the very, very tight over the brow apex of turn 10 and once again plunge downhill into 12, sweeping left, flat out, absolutely flat out through 12, and then heavy on the brakes once again for yet another very, very tight left-hand hairpin this time. He uses not so much of the track on the exit because he wants to be across back and left to the left-hand side of the track, turns in through this sweeping, never-ending 180 degree sweeping right-hand turn, and here it is, the all-important final turn, turn 15, up and pops over the brow now, just clinging to that curb a little bit, letting the car breathe out to the exit curb and using all of the curb and letting that car breathe out. Let's see what sort of time he posts, and it's a 1:46.9. It's about, yes indeed, just under 2 seconds slower than what we've seen in that car, but it is Rick Broiker's first flying lap out, and we remain on board using all the track in turn 1, not quite exceeding track limits, the right hand wheel staying track side. That's where he'll want to be through turn 3, and now getting that, squirming that car, the Lamborghini there, struggling to get traction there, and you saw the hands whip left and right on the steering wheel just to correct a little bit of oversteer. We're already into turn 5. Heavy braking for the hairpin, almost parking it and turning to get round the left-hander. Accelerating now along that short straight and through that sweeping left-hander. That brings the car out of balance into a corner where you pretty much need to be on the brakes to get to that apex. Now at the apex of 8, very, very important this, accelerating out of there, up and popping over the brow, plunging massively downhill, very, very steep indeed, and then turning through that flat-out left-hand sweep, up and over the hill and across the brow again. You need knowledge of this circuit to know exactly where the car is going to be over these blind brows. He's already plunging downhill towards through turn 12, and again we start rising towards 13, turns in through 13, another hairpin. Very, very busy hands on the wheel from Rick Broikers there, never ever stopping the inputs on the steering wheel, getting towards the penultimate corner, through the penultimate corner already, and into turn 15 to complete another tour of this Algarve Portimao circuit. And he's through the final turn using all of the exit curbs and keeping the momentum going on that Lamborghini. What will his lap time be as he crosses the line? He's got to beat a 1:45.012, and he's already clicked across the line, and that time there a 1:46.789. So he's getting quicker, is Rick Broikers.
Meanwhile, the other Lamborghini, I said Marco Mappelli back out at the wheel of that. He is also getting quicker, and in fact he's gone quicker than he went before, improving on both of his previous laps from a 1:45.1 now down to a 1:45.095. So Mappelli is improving, but he hasn't gone as quickly as this is in the Conrad car, as the Grasser car has gone already. So battle between these two Lamborghinis, Joe, very hot indeed.
It is indeed, and let me just mention, Malucelli has gone out in the Ferrari. He was sat quite nonchalant on the pit apron, just waiting, just watching, seeing what was happening out there, and the two Lamborghinis have clearly spooked him because the Scuderia Praha team have sent him back out. And whether he's been spooked by the Lamborghinis, or is that the Jordan Groger car? It is indeed Jordan Groger in the Renault RS01. We saw him come into the pits for more qualifying fuel. I say that, and that means only a little bit of fuel, enough for maybe a couple or so laps, and Jordan Groger is out trackside, and here he is starting what will be his first flying lap as he goes by in a 1:46.2. This will be the lap to watch. So Malucelli spooked there, wasn't he, Ben?
Meanwhile, we saw earlier on a red flag for the Vortex 1 car, which was parked up with a steering electronics problem. That car's got back out to circuit now and is finally back up to kind of the speed of the GT3, the A6 AM class. So he sits on the back of that class, but at least he's back up to a competitive lap time of 150.449 for the Vortex in 12th position overall. We're not actually seeing many improvements from the top 5 guys. We've seen these guys out on circuit, and maybe a sector here, a sector there goes green, but invariably the whole lap doesn't get an improvement. Jordan Kroger, this is his 3rd lap actually. His first lap was 2/10 off. His second lap was 2 seconds off. So he's going to go and try again. But as you can see, first sector, none of them are doing particularly strong first sectors.
The clock is ticking though, Paul. There's only 6 minutes remaining.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think, firstly, the temperature isn't dropping. I mean, it's, 6:30 in the evening, and you might sort of think, evening in August, it's beginning to... The temperature is just as warm as it's been all day, so that doesn't help. The tyres, however, are beginning to wear. The best of the tyres comes in the first part of the first couple of 3 laps.
However, Jordan Kroger has found speed in the second sector of the lap. His first sector was good. It's not the fastest he's ever been through that first sector, but his second sector is fastest of anybody through the second sector. He's got a little bit of attention though. I think he's being followed by Rick Breukers. No, he comes towards the line now. Heading towards the start and finishing line. Back a shot if you're watching the TV pictures. Is this provisional pole? No, it's not. He loses time again in the last sector.
It's Mapelli who's following him in the Conrad car, and then Rick Breukers in the Grasser car is behind that. So it's the Conrad car 21 that will come across the line first. Pause while he does it.
Yeah, no improvement.
No, he doesn't. He comes
Mapelli.
into the pits. So into the pits comes Mapelli. There goes Rick Breukers across the line, and that's not an improvement either. Another lap in the 146s for Rick Breukers then. So yeah, somehow you get the feeling, Joe, as you say, time ticking away, but you get the feeling that the track doesn't quite have this ultimate lap time in it at the moment.
It doesn't seem to. There seem to be all of our front runners seem to be on a second officer. And whether that is because we are on worn tyres, I'm sure they're not. I
know what it is.
Go ahead.
It's because they're all being so careful about not exceeding track limits.
Well, the thing is though, Paul, that can't be right, because the times that have been posted were within the constraints of those track limits. So
it's
not like you to be silly.
No.
We're the silly ones. Without the silliness, we're nothing. So stick with the script, will you?
Okay, sorry, won't happen again.
Yeah. You know what? Getting back to your initial statement, it may be the track's rubbered up or something. There may be the sun is sinking slightly lower, so I'd be surprised if we haven't seen maybe a couple of degrees change in ambient temperature. But I can't see the track temperature changing a massive amount to maybe indicate that the track has lost time. It may be just one of those things where the track is actually rubbering in and weathering in and is in fact going slower.
Well, Jordan Kroger brings his car into the pits, and that joins Mapelli, who abandoned his last lap. Rick Breukers has gone no faster on this one, neither has Malucelli. So that's our top 4 cars all abandoning any opportunity to improve. Urs Hensler is out onto circuit but hasn't improved. Maybe a slight improvement in the SP2 class. The B2F competition Porsche 991 Cup car, 3rd now in class. It's Porsche 123 Pro Sport ahead of IDEC, and then B2F with the Audi TT RS2, the best of the non-Porsches in SP2. But if you look at the timing screens without looking at the TV pictures, we're not seeing much improvement. As I say that though, a small improvement for the Wochenspiel Ferrari 488 that slices a couple of tenths off their fastest time.
Yeah, that's popped up the timing screens in so doing, hasn't it? The Ferrari 488, aptly numbered 488. That helps us a lot, doesn't it? With Jochen Kronbach at the wheel of the car at the moment, and that's a personal best for that car, 5th overall, and 5th in the A6 Pro class, 145.425. As you said, Ben.
Yeah, he's going again. Look as well. We've got him now on our screens. Lights ablaze. Great looking livery on that car as well. And best sector through sector 1 that he's had. So whilst no one else is finding pace, he is finding pace.
Well, he's got to find just over 0.3 of a second to improve his qualifying position, which will put him onto the second row of the grid. And it's another personal best sector times from the number 2. That's the Mercedes, who improves there through its sectors at the wheel. Manuel Metzger at the wheel of that car. Maybe that car is. We know that it's the Black Falcon test team, as we're calling it, as the entrant has it. But getting back to the Ferrari 488 of the Wochenspiegel team, Monshaw. We've got Andrew Marriott down in the pits. Andrew Marriott.
Well, I'm probably speaking to the pole sitter, but we've got to wait 1 minute yet, but a very good lap.
Yeah, thank you. It was a good lap. I think I did a small mistake, but was enough for the pole. It's my first pole in the season in for qualifying, so we are really happy, but you know, the race will be 24 hours, so we are happy this evening, but for tomorrow we'll see.
You went over to look at the timing screen. I don't know if you saw what the difference was, but I think the Renault was a thousandth of a second slower. It was very close.
Yeah, because he told me Renault is fast in the first sector, and then I saw they put a new set of tires. So when I jumped out of the car, I just went to look for the screen if we stay on first position or not.
In the last few minutes, do you think the tracks got slower?
No, because we had a third set of tires, but with one lap, so the tires were not good. We tried, but it was not enough because with used tires it was possible to do it better.
I think the flag's just about coming out, so well done, pole position!
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that we can say that the Scuderia Praha Ferrari will start the inaugural 24 Hours of Portimao from the very front of the grid. Pole position then to Mauro Malicelli. We've seen him do it many, many times. There's no doubt about it, as the checkered flag does indeed wave. We'll get the final run of our runners that are out on the track, and we've got just passing across the line now the 963 Lamborghini of Rick Breukers at the wheel of that car, and it was indeed the lap of Milos Pavlovic that put that car on the third place on the grid, second row of the grid for that. Joining Malicelli's Ferrari on the front row of the grid, though, is the Jordan Grosjean Renault RS01, and I think that was an absolutely outstanding effort there, considering 0.011 of a second, only 100th of a second from the pole position, that they will be bitterly disappointed being so close.
Well, I think he looks fairly happy with it, doesn't he? I just want to think back. Dubai, I'm pretty sure there was a Renault either on the front row, certainly on the first two rows. So the car is very, very good indeed. Anyway, we've got Andrew Marriott. He's with Jordan Grosjean. Andrew.
Yeah, and the team have just been congratulating. Oh, it was so close. What was a thousandth of a second or something?
Yeah, I mean, come on, it was nothing in it, but I gave it everything. The other car was awesome. They drove a great lap. We were right there. The team's awesome. Last race of the season, we thought we'd try, give it a push, show everyone what we can do in the pro, and let's see what happens. Still a long way to go.
What's the future for this team next year? Interesting developing this car.
Yeah, it's been our first year together as GP Extreme. I hope everyone's beginning to take notice of this new team that's burgeoning into something quite special. We're a family, and watch this space. I think they're exciting prospects for next year.
Do you get involved with the UAE? Because I believe they've got some very good ride and drive cars, even Formula One machines.
Yeah, we do historic F1s. We'll be taking a special car to Suzuka for the exhibition. The Masters F1 races, and then we'll start doing some exhibitions and maybe some ride and drive in contemporary F1s that are part of the arsenal of GP Extreme.
And Jordan, you're involved in all that?
Hopefully, as long as the team enjoy what I'm doing and we're a family and we have fun, and yeah, I'm involved in all of it.
Well, it was a great lap. Sorry you didn't quite make it, but congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. Thank you.
It bodes very well indeed for a very exciting race tomorrow. The inaugural 24 Hours of Portimao here in Portugal. Scuderia Praha on the pole position now with a 1 minute 44.524 and just failing to pip them at the very end there. The GP Extreme Renault RS01 of the number 28 Jordan Kroger car, 1 minute 44.535. Just a hundredth of a second splitting the first two cars. Second row of the grid will be the Grasser Racing Lamborghini, the car 963 with a 1 minute 45.012. Then we've got the similar Lamborghini Huracan GT3, at this time in the hands of the Conrad Motorsport team, car 21 with a 1 minute 45.095. That rounds off the second row of the grid. Third row of the grid will look like this. The Wochenspiegel team Monschau Ferrari 488, car aptly numbered 488, is on the fifth place on the grid, starting off the third row with a 1 minute 45.187. Then we've got the Porsche Racing powered by Olymp Porsche car 29 with a 1 minute 47.217, rounding off the third row. The sister car, in fact the pole sitter in our A6 AM class, is the GT Extreme Renault RS01 car 27 with a 1 minute 47.444. Car collection Motorsports Audi R8 car 32 is in 8th place with a 1 minute 47.465, also in the AM class. Third in the AM class, 9th on the grid, has got to be still one of the favourites for an overall win in the 24 Hours of Portimao. Herbert Motorsports number 911 Porsche 991 in their lap time, 1 minute 47.719. And then we've got the Hofer Racing current champions rounding off the top 10. The Hofer Racing Mercedes in the with a 1 minute 49.142, rounding off our top 10 for our grid tomorrow for what will be the inaugural 24 Hours of Portimao. Continuing down the grid then in 11th, the number 34 Car Collection Motorsport Audi, 1 minute 49.616 was their time. The Vortex, after problems earlier in the session, they rounded off their qualifying with a fine 12th with a 1 minute 50.320. First in the SP2 class, 13th overall, is the Pro Sport Performance car number 85, 1 minute 50.449 for the SP2 class pole position. 14th on the grid alongside them is the IDEX Sport Racing Porsche car 75 with a 1 minute 52.113. In 15th place then, the B2F Competition Porsche 991 car 35. That time there, 1 minute 52.489, sees them in 15th. And 16th will be the LMS Engineering Audi RTT, that's car 206 with a 1 minute 53.041. And 17th, that's the Test Mercedes, the test team for Black Falcon, car number 2, the Mercedes AMG GT4 with a 1 minute 53.295. And then rounding off this qualifying session with 18th place overall, the VDS Racing Adventures, the Mark Focus V8, car 58 with a 1 minute 53.951. Well, that concludes our qualifying for the 24 Hours of Portimao. We've got the serious business of sorting out the grid for tomorrow's race. We will be back later this evening with some very important night practice. More of that when we will go into more detail of why that night practice is important. But let's have a look back and see what happened during our very fine qualifying sessions for all of our classes here this afternoon at the Portimao circuit here in what can only be described as beautiful weather here in Portugal.